PowerShell has a ton of extensibility points, ways that you can extend the environment to work the way you want it to. So of course you can create custom scripts, and those scripts can do lots of things, including act as commandlets. And when PowerShell 1.0 came out, you had to build commandlets with Visual Studio, and those were deployed using a facility called snap-ins. Snap-ins are deprecated, but there are still a lot of snap-ins out there, and it's still possible to create new ones, although you shouldn't. Instead, you should create modules. And modules are these packages that allow you to contain scripts and set up aliases and commandlets and configure the environment every way that you might possibly want it to work. But as you start to build up a big scripting library, you're going to need some way to organize it. So you could just put all of your scripts into the same folder every time and use the path environment variable. For lightweight scenarios, that's going to work just fine. You could create a module or a snap-in. But regardless of how you do any of these things, you're going to want certain things to happen when the PowerShell console or PowerShell ICE opens up. And for that, you're going to want to create profiles. And profiles are very simple and easy to use because all a profile is a script that runs whenever a session starts. And you use it to customize the environment. So a script can do anything you want, but usually what it does is it loads modules or snap-ins, or sets up aliases that are specific to your environment. Really, you can set it up to do whatever you want as long as it can be done by PowerShell via a script. Now, you can also set up profiles at different levels. So you can have a script that applies to the current user, yourself, or all users, or all host applications. To do that, you just put the file in a particular location. And you can find these locations via a set of automatic profile variables. The first one is the PS home variable, and this is the PowerShell install folder. So this is a pretty handy variable that you can use in addition to many things aside from just profiles. If you need to know the user's home directory, you can use the home variable. And then finally we have the profile variable, which contains an array of the available profile paths. Alright, so what we're going to do now is jump over to an actual PowerShell installation, and I'm going to configure a profile. What I want my profile to do is automatically load the SharePoint PS snap-in whenever I open it, because the machine that we're going to be working on is a SharePoint 2013 box. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so here we are on a SharePoint 2013 box, and I've already opened up the SharePoint management shell. Now, SharePoint 2013 and SharePoint 2010 both come with a snap-in that loads up all sorts of wonderful SharePoint-specific PowerShell commands. And we can see these in this window if I do a git command. And we're going to do a where to filter this. The name is a match to SP. Okay, when I run this, you can see that I have just a ton of SharePoint-specific commands. But if I go over to PowerShell ICE, which I just opened up, and I look here in the command window, or rather the command builder, I can see that clearly I do not have any SP commands loaded up. So if I executed that same git command syntax, I would not actually find any SharePoint stuff. So since this is a SharePoint machine, I would really like it if I could use PowerShell ICE instead of the SharePoint management shell, because the stock command shell does not have IntelliSense, and I really need IntelliSense because I'm just not that smart. So if I come over to my existing window here and I do a get module command to see what I have loaded, I can see that I don't have anything here that says SharePoint on it, and the reason for that is because what I actually have is a snap-in. So this is PS snap in, and this tells me that I have Microsoft PowerShell Core, which I always have, and then I also have Microsoft SharePoint.PowerShell. So I could copy this and then come over to this window and say that I want to import never can remember the name of this command, so let's go to the command add-in and we'll just look for pssnapin. I could do a get command as well. So this is add pssnapin instead of import. So in spite of the approved verbs, you know, sometimes it's not quite what we want. And if I paste this in here, it's going to take a second to run. But after this is finished, we refresh the commands, we can see that we have all of these SharePoint commands. So what I really want to have happen is every time I open up PowerShell ICE for the add pssnapin command to run. So I need to make a profile. All right, so let's look at some of these handy PowerShell variables that we have available to us automatically. All right, so the first one we have that I wanted to talk about was pshome. And we can see that pshome is here at this installation point. And I'm not actually going to create anything at pshome. What I want to do is see what actual profiles I have. So if I look at profile, I can see that my profile that I'm running right is the PowerShell ICE profile.ps1. And we can look at that in the editor. I'm just going to say we want to do a ps edit. This is going to open up the PowerShell editor, and we'll just do ps edit profile. And it tells me that it can't find it because it doesn't exist, right? So the profile variables tell us where the profile file needs to be and what its name needs to be in order for us to use it. But it doesn't mean that the files are there already. And if we take a look at the ones that we've got available to us, we can see we have all users, all hosts, which means for every user and every host program that might run, including PowerShell ICE or the command shell. All users, current host, which you can see in IntelliSense here, this is PowerShell ICE, and this is what we would get if we wanted PowerShell ICE to work the same way regardless of who logged in. Current user, all host, is under our documents folder. And then current user, current host is what we saw when we ran profile up here, right? So right now we know that profile by default gives us current user, current host. All right, so if I want to actually be able to do this, then I need to create a new profile. And since this is a SharePoint machine, and I may have other administrators log into it, I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to create a new profile for everybody regardless of what the host happens to be. And so the command to create a new item, whether it's a file or a folder, if we're dealing with the file system, is the new item command. And this is also how we create new registry keys, etc., using the profile model. And so the profile I want, as I said, we decided was for all users, all hosts. And the type of item we're going to create here is going to be a file. And we're going to force this to create. All right. And so it comes back and says, yep, there's your file. And so now we're going to say ps edit profile, all users, all hosts. And you can see that the script window popped up, and there we have profile.ps1. All right, so hopefully I still have this on my clipboard. Yeah, there it is. And this is, what did we decide this was? This was add pssnapin. All right, so we'll say add pssnapin and save this. Now there's no way to test this at the moment because I already loaded it in this session, plus the profile is executed when the session starts up. So I'm going to close PowerShell ICE here and come over and open it up again. And let's see if we've got any PowerShell commands for SharePoint. So I'm going to just say add and hit space. Well, and look, add SP app denied endpoint and claim type mapping and all sorts of stuff. And so now I have created a profile for this machine that is specific to the work I want to do. The profile file is just a script, so I really could have it do whatever I want. But for this machine, SharePoint Snap-in.